Hi, my name is David Wallimann. Welcome to this channel, which is all about helping guitar players like you find your voice on the instrument in a healthy way, hopefully, and develop it to tell your own musical story. Stories are what always attracted me to music. That's really at the core. The essence of my love for music is stories. I was just talking to a friend about that yesterday and explaining to him what really drew me to music. It's not the harmony, it's not the rhythm, it's not the technique, it's the stories. And that's really why I love instrumental music, because, well, there are no lyrics, which means that you can make your own story. And that's just where my love for music came. And this kind of leads me to think about story development. And when I make a video, this is very appropriate to talk about this. When I make a video, what you see usually is the start of the video, prepared, and hopefully it flows well. Yet before that, in order for the story to flow, in order for me to convey an idea that hopefully makes sense to you, there is some mental preparation before that. And that, I think, needs to happen in a musical situation, most importantly in an improvisation setting. So what I want to suggest here is to take that time in your practice session to think about what you are going to play. Nobody's watching you. You have time to do that, and then it's going to really naturally translate when you're playing live or in a recording setting. You're going to automatically add those things to your musical speech, and that's what we're going to talk about today. First, I want to talk about the difference between playing with something or playing on your own. Playing over something versus playing on your own. The mechanics are kind of the same, but there is a distinction. When you're playing over something, you're basically joining a landscape. That's how I see it. The landscape is set. You still have freedom to tell your story, but it needs to fit that landscape. And back to the story thing, let's say that we have a backing track like the one you're hearing now. I'm going to mentally picture something with that. And it could be anything really, but here I'm hearing something kind of a ballad, soft, light. It's not very tensed. And so the landscape could be like a beautiful field with mountains in the back, and everything is peaceful, and you're joining that setting. You don't want to crash into the story right away with monsters and robots. You want to fit the setting. Of course you can break the rules, but if you don't break those rules, if you try to match the setting, your improvisation is going to be received by the others in a natural way, and they're going to be engaged with what you have to say. That doesn't mean that later on in your story you can add some monsters and robots. You can do that, but don't start right away with those things. All right, so practically, how do we work on this with our instrument, with our pencil, which tells the story? You always have to remember that the story comes from inside. You're the one telling the story. This is just your pencil. You're just using this to tell your story. Again, a lot of players use this to generate the story. The story comes from their patterns, and that means that all of their stories kind of sound the same. There's a lot more you can do. So if I'm listening to this, I am going to associate with the mental picture that I have some musical elements that might fit that. So again, like beautiful landscape, that's what I'm picturing here. Mountain in the back, a field, flowers, whatever you want. It's peaceful. I'm going to associate melodic ideas, soft ideas. It's not very harsh here, and I can adapt that to my playing. Let's go to a close-up, and I'll give you a few ideas of how I would translate that musically. All right, before we started building some phrases that would fit over that canvas, which is the beautiful landscapey type of thing, we're going to talk about what happens in real life when we are joining a story, when we're joining a conversation. You're not going to jump in and start talking right away. First, you listen because you need to know what it's about, and that's the first tip. Don't play anything in the first few seconds. Really listen to what's going on. Then you can gather some information as far as what is going on in this story, and that's how you can know that this is a peaceful setting, and you start building some pictures there. We're in the key of E major, and You know that eventually by training your ear and fishing around for a few notes, and pretty quickly you know what key you're in. That's the topic for a different video. But we're in the key of E major, and you have the full fretboard available to build your words. Each note is a letter. A combination of letters together creates a word. A combination of words together creates a musical statement. Okay? One tip that I have for you is not to start with your volume and your tone all the way up. Why? Because when it's at 10, that's the loudest you're going to speak. When you're joining a conversation, you're gathering clues, and you don't want to master that conversation. You don't want to be the one that's dominating that conversation. You want to easily blend in. So I would recommend either starting at 0 and start with some swells, if you want, or about 3/4, not all the way up, so that you still have room to make a bolder statement if you want. And build your sentences, really short sentences. You're easing in, you're testing your words against what's going on in the back. So a word that might fit that story with the canvas is maybe something like this. Or something like this. Let's see if you can pinpoint something that is common between all these ideas. I landed these ideas on the strong notes, the safe notes, the notes that are part of the chord that is extracted from the key. In this case, we're in E major 7. So I'm landing on either the root, which is extremely safe, or maybe the major 3rd, or maybe the 5th, or even the major 7. Those 4 notes are super safe, and I'd recommend starting with that because that'll give you a mental picture of the harmony, what the harmony is, those strong notes across the backing track, the key of the backing track. And it's also going to give you an idea as what you can do later on for words that are going to work later on. I consider those words that land on the strong notes, root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, to be kind of baby talk, like you're going straight to the point, straight to the idea. It's kind of associated with major pentatonic too, which is a very safe scale to use over a backing track that is an Ionian, Lydian, or Mixolydian. Those are safe statements. They're not super colorful, but that's okay. Now there's degrees of color within those 4 notes. The root is as bland as possible. It's not super colorful. The major 3rd is a little more colorful. The 5th is not super colorful, and the major 7th is colorful. So we have no color, a little bit of color, not much color, and a lot of color. Okay, that's kind of the order: root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Think about that when you're starting to work on your improv. Try to land on these notes and see how they sound. Then we're going to add adjectives by implementing to these 4 notes the other notes that are missing to that to create the full musical alphabet. We're considering 7-note alphabets. We're in Ionian 7-note scale, so we dealt with those 4 not so colorful notes: 1, 3, 5, 7. Then you can add the 2 and the 4 and the 6. Okay, so gradually create words that land on one of these notes and see how they sound. What do they sound like over the backing track? Do you like it? Do you not? Get acquainted with those intervals. It's really, really important. And then add some phrasing ideas, build your story. So if the canvas is, beautiful field, that's kind of what you're playing over, mountains in the back, you're going to introduce a character. Character is whatever you want, but I would not suggest robots and monsters again, because you're trying to mash the setting. So maybe a young girl is walking across the field. So here is our young girl. You're just introducing her here. For example, and I land on one of these strong notes. This is a not very detailed picture of that character. It's just, here's the character. Basically, here's me joining what is established here in the background. I'm joining that conversation. Okay? And you want to insist on that character. You want to give a little more detail. So maybe you're going to picture her with the same kind of word, but you're going to add a little detail. She has blonde hair. So what I mean by that is I'm phrasing in the same area of the fretboard, so it's the same idea, the same character. I introduced a new detail to that character by landing on an even more colorful note, which is the major sixth, for example. She has blonde hair. Very simple word here. A little more detail, and you can detail as much as you want. Landed on the second here. Okay, so you're kind of like, you're giving 4 or 5 ideas about that girl so that the listener has an idea of what's going on. He can picture that musical statement. In my mind, it's a girl in the field and it matches the canvas here. And then you're going to introduce something else. Maybe something happens. Maybe there's a little bit of wind here that starts, going across the field. And you're just painting a story. So you got that, and then a little bit of wind. That's a new idea. Maybe the wind is kind of going fast a little bit. Okay, that's a new idea, okay? You had the girl here. Add a little more details. Which is still the same idea, and then here's the new idea. That's a second idea. And then you blend both together. The girl, the wind is going in the girl's hair. So that's under the fretboard, that's describing the girl. A little bit of wind in her hair. And you painting a story. So it's a very organic thing. It's not necessarily prepared, and that's what I mean by improvisation. You're telling a story on that setting. If you were to introduce monsters and robots, it would be it wouldn't match necessarily. That would be kind of like starting your improv with something more technical. There's a robot in the field. What is he doing here? That doesn't necessarily match. This can come later. Maybe it can be the climax. Wind comes in, girl is walking, and then there's a little bit of drama, and in the distance you see something coming. So you give clues as to what is coming by maybe bursts of speed. And then here's the robot. At some point in the story, but don't start with that right away. All these things are just ideas, and I strongly recommend that you give that a try on your own over any musical idea. Just build a story. It's really important. Think about how you would tell a story to a kid, apply that to your instrument, and see what comes out. All right, this lesson was a little different. I hope that you got something out of it, and I really hope that you take it to heart and try it on your own. As ridiculous as this lesson might sound, it really will make a difference in your playing. And if you incorporate those simple ideas into your own musicality, you're going to sound, I think, closer to who you should be musically. And again, the setting can be anything. It doesn't have to be this beautiful landscape, ballad type of stuff. It could be a death metal backing track, and it's going to be darker, and you're just going to try to match the musical elements. Eventually, yes, of course, you can add your own flavor to that, but really listen to what's going on. I prepared for you a few backing tracks that you can download in different settings, different story landscapes. I want you to approach them as that. Download the pack, it's free. All you need to do is visit the link below, enter your best email address, and you'll get those backing tracks right away. And before anything, hit play and listen and imagine the landscape. Imagine what you would like to do, just like we did in the lesson part here. Let me know what you think below, and if this was your first visit to this channel, first of all, thank you very much. And you should consider subscribing, because every week I have 3 videos coming out helping guitar players like you find your voice on the instrument, develop it to tell your own musical story. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.